Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. I thought we could gather around today. Thank you for coming again, Lisa. We're talking about Lars von Trier's 2011 film Melancholia. So, as usual, we can do a little intro round. Maybe start with Jeremy. What's your relationship with this movie? Have you seen it before? And also Lars von Trier generally.
I do not know who Lars von Trier is, so I'm hoping you will teach me. I guess he's attached to this movie. He directed it. My relationship with this movie is that Jackie and I watched it at some point. I'm almost certain it was back at the Montrose condo. I had almost no memories of it, and in fact, going in before I saw the movie the first time and going into today, I was like thinking Melancholia was Kirsten Dunst's character's name. It's like her superhero name or something. So yeah, that's my relationship with this movie. Should we go to Sarah next?
Yeah.
I got a lot of background noise right now, so I'm gonna throw it to Jackie or Lisa.
Okay. How about Jackie? Let's
go. Hi. Yeah. What are we doing
just like, what have you seen this before? What's your Lars von Trier relationship in your life?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw this, I think, when it came out in 2011, and at that time, I think I was really into like movies, so I saw Antichrist as well. And then I also saw Nymphomaniac. Like, I think there were two of them.
Two Nymphomaniacs?
And, yes, and I also like really, really love Charlotte Gainsbourg. I think she's so cool.
Yeah, she is.
So yeah, that's my
That's your favorite. Cool. How about Lisa? We'll go around before it comes to Sarah.
So I too don't have any relationship with Lars, but I saw fairly recently in the last couple of years a movie called Another Earth, which is a Brit Marling movie, which doesn't really quite mirror this, but it had that sci-fi, otherworldly kind of feel, but it's rooted in I guess as much as you can say reality. There's no spaceships flying around, there's no time travel, there's no nothing. It's just two Earths, and she ends up on the other Earth. And it's a great movie. It's really, really good. Anything that Brit Marling does, I will see, because the OA was like my life at the beginning of the pandemic, and I waited for the second season of that. It was amazing. So this reminded me of that, and I was like, oh, and the poster is so beautiful with Kirsten on it, and I was like, it's probably going to be a great movie. I didn't really know what I was in for. I really enjoyed it, but no other relationship other than that.
Cool. How about Sarah?
Okay, a little quieter in here now. I had never seen anything by Lars von Trier. This was my first one. For some reason, this movie's been on my want to watch list for like 5 or 6 years. I don't know why. I can't remember where I heard about it. Maybe I read an article about it or something, and have been wanting to watch it for years. So I was really excited to watch it, and I was super impressed, and I want to watch more of this director's work now.
Nice. Yeah, I'm also, I had never seen Melancholia. It was also like a long time thing. Or also, in looking at it, I don't know that I've ever seen anything by Lars von Trier. I've been aware of him, and I've been aware like his like Dogma 95 philosophy on movies early on, where it was like a very rigid set of rules to adhere by to keep it like honest storytelling and not gimmicky and stuff. I think he's like hasn't necessarily stuck to that, but I've always been fast. But I think this might be the first one I've seen of it. So yeah, I'm in the same boat where I'd love to kind of branch out from there. Cool. So I thought I would do a few, like we usually do, kind of fun facts initially about this before we set up the discussion. So Melancholia, or melancholy, the word, is a concept found throughout ancient, medieval, pre-modern medicine in Europe that describes a condition characterized by markedly depressed mood, bodily complaints, and sometimes hallucinations and delusions, just to file that away. This, in terms of the film Melancholia, it's the second film in Lars von Trier's unofficially titled Depression trilogy. It was preceded in 2009 by Antichrist and followed by Nymphomaniac in 2013. Many critics and film scholars have considered this film to be a masterpiece, along with his previous film Dogville in 2003. It was included in the 2016 poll of the greatest films since 2000, conducted by the BBC, and has been featured in various listings of the best films of the 21st century. We'll talk about this in a little bit. We actually have music this time for our podcast to talk about, but Melancholia prominently features music from the prelude to Richard Wagner's opera Tristan and Isolde. We'll talk more about this in a second. And then the idea for the film originated during a therapy session Lars von Trier attended during treatments for his depression. A therapist had told him that depressive people tend to act more calmly than others under heavy pressure because they already expect bad things to happen. Von Trier then developed the story not primarily as a disaster film and without any ambition to portray astrophysics realistically, but as a way to examine the human psyche during a disaster. In a James Bond movie, we expect the hero to survive. It can get exciting nonetheless, and some things may be thrilling precisely because we know what's going to happen, but not how they will happen. In Melancholia, it's interesting to see how the characters will follow as the planet approaches Earth on his decision to reveal the ending at the beginning of the film. Initially, Penelope Cruz was going to play the lead role, but she dropped out when the filming schedule of another project conflicted. Von Trier then offered the role to Kirsten Dunst, who accepted it. She had been suggested by American filmmaker Paul Thomas Anderson in a discussion about the film between him and Lars von Trier. He employed his usual directing style with no rehearsals. Instead, the actors improvised and received instructions between the takes, which is interesting. Cool. So let me start over to our plot summary, as we've been kind of going from here. So we'll read, as we said, this was a little bit weird because it's a little bit more of an experience in some sorts, but I think we would start with the prologue that opened this movie up. So Melancholia opens with a surreal slow motion montage depicting the main characters and natural elements, culminating in the image of Earth on a collision course with a rogue planet we later find out named Melancholia. This sets the tone for the film's exploration of depression and impending doom. So maybe we can start with Sarah. What was your take on the opener?
I thought it was super compelling, and I loved the music. And the music reminded me of Vertigo. That was my first big oh, that's how it sounds. So, and they were kind of going close up into paintings, which happens in a scene in Vertigo. So there was that, but then there were all those haunting images that were and I don't know what that camera technique is where they were frozen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that was, but it almost looked like they were moving super slow.
Yeah.
But it was so eerie and so interesting. I felt like each one of those was almost like a painting. Each shot was almost like a painting, but then there were paintings in there. So I thought that was really cool. It was I didn't know if the filmmaker was telling us something about art. Oh, and then the kind of Ophelia image of her in the dress with the flowers, it was just really cool. So yeah, I really liked the whole beginning. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, I think you said you've heard the phrase every frame a painting,
Mm-hmm.
as a term for a really well-directed movie. But this movie takes that to the next level where you almost don't care what's happening in the scene. You're just look at that.
Mm-hmm.
That is a cool wallpaper for your laptop or something. And Sarah's I'm not sure if the painting thing was a theme, and in my mind it's that's the one thing that kind of outlives us, and the one way to cheat death is creation and art, right? If you create art, that outlives you.
Mm-hmm.
And so contrasted with the end of the world where nothing survives. Yeah, I thought it was cool. Did anyone else see the shot when Claire, in the intro, when Claire is running with her child? It looked like her feet were sinking into the grass.
Into the green, yes, that definitely looked like that.
Right. And I was thinking okay, there's the end of the world and temperatures getting so weird, so it's porous almost. But that's not what happens at the very end, right?
No.
So
yeah,
kind of haunted me.
Yeah. How about Lisa? What was your take?
So I thought it was very interesting because we come in with these images that we've been talking about, the Tristan and Isolde music, which is used heavily and repeatedly throughout the whole movie. But I believe when there's no deidetic, I think that's the term, deidetic music, eidetic music, there's no music. So we have this very dramatic theme along with these very dramatic images, which turns out to be a dream that Justine had, right? But it's also like, this is a very dramatic, serious movie. And then we cut to something else, which is very real, or limo trying to get up to a house, you know? So I thought that was a really, really interesting juxtaposition. It's almost like, and then in the beginning it was insisting this is going to be dramatic and this is, it has to be because this is about the end of the world. But then it's not. We go into something quiet and calm and different. It's really interesting that the two foils to each other, the two kind of just tones to the whole thing, because that theme comes in quite a few times, you know, in the middle of the thing, which I love it. But then you're like, oh, the drama's coming back again. So thinking of the first part of the movie, yeah.
How about Jackie?
I just really liked how they were like almost like dream images, because I think when you are like anxious or depressed, your dreams are more vivid. And I like it just got me thinking about art and mental illness and how like it's interesting to me how a lot of artists like are inspired by their dreams, because the images are so like interesting and vivid because they don't match with reality. So yeah, that's all. But also I really love the title screen. It was like Melancholia written in,
oh yeah, with like his name on the top, like, yeah, that was cool.
for some reason I just found that so cool, kind of like what Lisa was saying, that this juxtaposition, it was like very high art, high like the music, and then it was just this like
Hand drawn almost, yeah.
Dust thing. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I thought it was, we saw like before, I think with like telephone poles later, and when it was like the planet was approaching, but like you saw in the intro light coming from her fingers, which I thought was interesting. It was kind of like hinting at some power that she might have later. And then yeah, I like the still shots with the movement over, where it was almost still but some movement. That kind of like, to me, echoed everyone freaking out or trying to do this, and then somebody in the midst of it moving very slowly too, which I think also kind of hints at what will come. Cool. To jump to the, I thought we'd do this because it's like the movie's split in two, and there's a lot that happens. So like to start with the first part, and then we can get more in depth on the second part where more of the plot stuff happens. But the first part is titled Justine. It centers on Justine's wedding day at a castle owned by her sister Claire and her brother-in-law John. Justine and her new husband, Michael, arrive late to the reception, where the atmosphere is tense and uncomfortable. Despite a promotion announcement by her boss, Justine's deepening depression undermines the celebration. She alienates those around her, quits her job, and calls off her marriage after a quick affair, signaling her emotional collapse. Okay, so what was your take on sort of this first? A lot happened. There was a lot of like kinetic movement conversations happening at the wedding. But what was maybe Jeremy, start with Jeremy. What was your take on this first part?
Don't you dare jump to the wedding. We have to talk about the limo parking scene.
Yes.
Yep.
Because that was so visceral and real and relatable. And I love the dark comedy that they're parking that effing limo for 2 hours, because you realize like there's a limo driver. So like they, I'm sure they left right after the wedding, but they're just so inconsiderate of respecting people's times that they just obsess. And also, if you look where they're parking it is just like 100 feet away from the house.
Yeah,
like they could have walked once they were that close. But I don't know, there's so many layers to it. Like the house is, first of all, really beautiful. And I love the comedy of like, you think, oh my God, the house must be so good for parties. Well, yeah, but no one can park their car, because if you look, there was the rich people cars all down the winding driveway, which is really impractical. I don't know. I just feel like this has to be inspired by like Hollywood weddings they've been to. that they're crazy decadent and go way over time, and no one's really having fun. I don't know. I loved it.
How about Lisa?
Yeah, I too, like I said before, Jeremy, I loved that whole limo scene. I didn't get that it was literally like 100 feet away from the front of the house. I was just really into the two lovebirds in the back. They look very happy and like very like, it's okay, we're cool, you know, let's get out and help, you know. I loved that. And then when we got to the house, it was very like, people were angry, and I was like, this is a wedding, what the heck is going on? But the one thing that I noticed all through that first part of it was that I was just noticing, first of all, this is the first time that I've really ever seen a movie that deals with a person who is probably clinically depressed, but nobody talks about that, right? They didn't really address it, but that's not what this movie is about, obviously, you know, but she's got this going on, and everybody wants something from her. Every single person wants something from her in that scene. So she does anything that she can to not do that. So I have notes here. So everything wants something. So her husband wants sex, right? Her sister wants her to behave. Her brother-in-law wants her to be grateful and not embarrass him. Her mom wants her to be not married, and her dad wants her to be happy but not be around her at all. Her boss wants a tagline, and on and on and on. So she does other things. She acts out in this kind of very rather quiet desperation. She visits horses, she dances with other people, she puts her nephew to bed, she kisses and walks out on her husband, she fucks a stranger, you know, in the golf course, you know, and she takes a bath, all in desperation to get away from something that she thought that she wanted, and she said that she wanted, but now there's too many strings attached, and she's like, I like be happy. Can I just be happy? And nobody can allow her to be happy. So I just thought that was a very interesting part of it. And all the while there's Melancholia in the background. So I just, that was what I really got from the first part of this.
Yeah. How about Sarah?
I thought it was interesting, and I love everything you guys already said, so I won't retread anything, but like I really love the way the camera cut, and I don't usually notice camera work that much, but it was almost like Justine's eye line, like it would just cut away. It was almost like I felt like I was there. You know what I mean? Like looking around the room, because it's like, oh, you'd focus on this person, then suddenly like you're looking down because you're like checking something in your purse. Like that was the feeling of the camera, the way it moved, kind of really put you there, which I thought was really cool. There were so many things that weren't tied up, but I loved it. Like how she wanted to talk to her dad, and she's like, Dad, I want to talk to you. And like, we just never find out what she wants to talk to her dad about. And like the mom who's like so bitter and angry, and like we never really find out why. I love your take, Lisa, that everybody wants something from her, because you do feel that weight of expectation from the moment they get there, and the brother and sister are mad, you know. And then, yeah, everybody pulling, you know, wanting to like suck something from her. Like I really felt that. Oh, and I did love the scene when Kiefer said, "There's like those bitches are taking baths."
Okay.
That was like, great.
I feel like, you know, like my movies that give me like a power fantasy is like Captain America or Spider-Man or something. The idea of taking a bath while a room full of people waits for you, I feel like is Jackie's power fantasy. Like that is so like and the mom I thought was so believable as like, you know, she's been burned and she's like over it all. And the son like checks on her and she's in the bath and she just like cusses him out through the door, and I feel like it's obvious she's been drinking, and it's like you kind of see how that's her mother, right?
Yeah.
And some of this cloud was passed down.
And Kiefer Sutherland is just, you kind of hate him, even though it's like you can kind of see his perspective. It's like he's kind of giving the right adult perspective, but you just hate him. Like, or at least I did. So I thought that was really well done too.
What's your take, Jackie, on the first part?
I just love all the human like relationships like you guys have been talking about. I feel like this was such an accurate portrayal of a wedding for me, because they're always for other people. Like, they're always like, they're so ritualistic, and I think it does such a good job at like portraying like when you're depressed, you literally like cannot participate in the rituals that like society deems important and significant. Like, your brain just like can't find that important. And it's like a lot of people, her family was like, that's selfish. They viewed her as selfish. And like, it's hard not to view her as selfish, but it's like her brain is literally telling her these things aren't important. Like, these rituals are like meaningless. And I thought it did such a good job at like portraying depression realistically and like not romanticizing it. And I loved like seeing how she like got like kind of the worst parts of her parents in a way. Like, you saw like her dad's like kind of recklessness and her mom's like self-centeredness. And I thought it was like really subtle and well done. Like Sarah was saying, we don't know everything about their relationship, but we can just see like the after effects of their family dynamic and how it's affected her. And I found that like really believable. And honestly, like relatable as well. Yeah.
Cool. I took a lot of. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I just don't want, because we talked a lot about the mom. I just want to just talk for a second about John Hurt as the dad.
Yeah.
Right. Because first of all, the spoon prank, hilarious. Asking the waiter for a spoon with your fucking full of spoons. What was with the Betty thing? Was that like an Alzheimer's thing, or was that like his
I couldn't tell. Or was that like his little comedy stylings too? Yeah.
Right. I couldn't tell. And then you know, Sarah said we never find out what she wanted to talk to her father about. I was actually thinking the Betty thing was sort of like maybe like his mind slipping a bit, and everyone's kind of going along with it, because and because that could also be why it hurt so much when he chose to leave, and why he chose to leave. His goodbye letter said like, someone offered me a ride home and I can't say no to that. And I was like, oh, are you not able to like take care of yourself? Right. So I don't know. I just love I love that actor. I love all the unanswered questions about that character.
Amazing cast. Yeah.
I took a lot of notes. I put to the classic spoon gambit. It was like quite a little thing. I think your theory is right. Like, maybe his Betty thing is both his memory slipping and he can't remember, and comedy both together, so he covers it with Betty. Yeah. I had a note on the whole backing in the car, the parallel parking thing. It was interesting that the movie starts with them very much being in control so that things don't collide, and then of course we know what happens in the second half, which is interesting. I was gonna play. This is our multimedia thing. Sarah sent me this. So I'm gonna turn this up so you can hear this. This is what we were talking about with some of the top. I feel like half of these podcasts we're talking about ties to Vertigo, always. But this is another time. Listen to.
I love Vertigo. I mean,
listen to these two clips. So here is Tristan and Isolde. First of all, this is like 20 seconds. And then here is Bernard Herrmann's Vertigo.
Are we allowed to talk while it's playing?
That's about it. Yes. But yeah, you can see there's like a lot of the same chords and emotions in both of those for sure. Initially we were like, man, this ripped off Vertigo. And they're like, oh, Vertigo ripped off Wagner, apparently. So, yeah, Jeremy, sorry.
Did anyone else think the theme kind of overstayed its welcome? And by the end of the movie, I was like, again with the, and I was like, ugh. I feel like it made the end of the world a little more boring, and that's an insane.
No, I totally disagree.
Okay.
I loved it
every time. Every time.
Every time.
Every
Yeah.
time. There it is.
More every time you loved it.
Injecting a little emotion in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I just felt it felt cosmic too. And it's like all these cosmically big things are happening. Oh, and like there was like the big sundial in the yard, which I thought was kind of just a cool nod to this like planetary theme, I guess, or celestial theme that I thought was cool.
The other thing I didn't know until after when I looked at the cast, I didn't recognize him, was the guy that played, I think his name was Tim, that she slept with on the golf course. It was Brady Corbet as an actor, and he went on to direct The Brutalist last year. So he became a director, and yeah, it's kind of interesting. And then the other thing I was going to know, I don't know what your take is. Maybe this might tie in more later, but they never explained why the kid calls her Aunt Steelbreaker. Like, I have some thoughts on that. But I'm curious what anyone else has got a take on why.
Do we know their last name?
I
thought maybe it had something to do with he says something about steel when he mentions the telescope, or somebody says something about looking through steel. So that's kind of why I was like, oh, maybe it's because she's kind of like sort of you can almost see her as the role of like the prophetess as opposed to the scientist. Do you know what I mean? And it's like the scientists are wrong and the prophetess is right. And I don't remember the line, but somebody specifically says something about looking through how many pounds of steel. So that was the only, I thought, mention of steel in the script. And I was like, oh, well, maybe that's why they called her like Aunt Steelbreaker, unless I missed something. But I was glad I didn't, because I was going to ask you guys too, like, did I miss why that's a cute nickname?
I didn't. It just looking at, I mean, my take too is that maybe like it's interesting that she, in theory, until the second half, is kind of seems to be the most unstable one of the family, and yet the kid thinks she is strong enough to break steel, right? Like, to her, he's got that, and that kind of pans out a little bit at the end too. But I don't know; it's just a theory.
That's interesting.
Why did the kid give her a dagger? That was weird, right? As a wedding gift, the kid hands her a freaking ceremonial dagger
to make their sticks for their magic cave. I thought that cave thing kind of predated.
Okay.
Yes. You can't tell if it's dream or not of her looking at him while he's whittling a stick, and they have the sticks at the end. You know, so
that's right.
That is interesting. I was like, when did that happen? I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, he really liked her, and she obviously loved him a lot. You know, she fixated on him quite a lot.
Cool. All right, so let's move on to the second part, and we have a couple more breaks because there's a lot that happens in the second part. In the second part, called Claire, the story shifts to focus on Claire as the rogue planet Melancholia approaches Earth. Justine arrives at Claire's estate, increasingly withdrawn and depressed. John, an astronomy enthusiast, insists Melancholia will pass safely, but Claire grows anxious after researching theories that predict a collision. Strange phenomena start to occur, including power outages and restless horses, heightening the tension. So I'll pause there for, I don't know, Jeremy, if you have a take on the first part there.
Well, first of all, I love that it's a movie about depression, and we get the perspective of the depressed person, and Kirsten Dunst is like I feel like I've seen a lot of movies where there's a depressed character, but it never rings quite authentic. And there's something about Kirsten Dunst's acting and like just her expressions. Every face Kirsten Dunst makes in that first half tells a story. Kurt had said in the chat, like, you know, I wish that more movies skipped rehearsals, because we kind of think that made the performances feel more authentic, right? And so then, but like as Jackie was saying last night, I think it's important to show the other half of depression, which is the people who are caring for them and really the victims of their selfish acts, right? Because Justine like ruins everyone's night, but everyone else suffers too. I really like that Alexander Skarsgård, like there was no real indication he was that bad of a guy. You know, no. He actually seemed pretty loving to her. And even when she like breaks up with him, you know, we don't really know exactly how much she told him or if she or tells him about the golf course, riding the guy on the golf course, which, by the way, Lisa, you said like everybody wants a piece of Justine. Hilarious that even the little snively ad guy was like, hey, you and I could start our own ad agency. Like, I'll do the business, and we've already had good sex, so we doing this? And she's just like, oh my God. Like,
Craziness.
everyone wants something from me. I think maybe the most underrated scene in this movie is when Claire is dealing with the fallout that Justine has caused, and everyone's upset and everyone's leaving, and the guys who are running the event are like, 678 beans. And she's like, what? And he's like, that's how many beans were in the bottle. And she's like, no one cares. And he's like, there's quite a few people who want to know the results. I loved just I loved the help, I guess, for lack of a better term. But there kept being these great scenes of like, well, all the rich people get to have their crises and their breakdowns, and oh my God, and it's like, yeah, and now the hotel manager or the event coordinator, whatever he was, picks up the suitcase that was just dramatically slammed down and puts it back away.
The mothers, yeah.
Little Father. Speaking of interesting names, Kyle.
Yeah.
What would that be? Concierge isn't the right term. What's his title?
He's like a household. That's what he does, right. I think.
He's Mr.
I'm
Bean
a butler, sir. I butler.
Yeah, butler. Yeah. He's like, room 8 is ready, so he knows everything in there,
right.
Like that.
But I just thought that was a really underrated character, and I, as someone who would want to have known the number,
I was going to say, you absolutely want to know.
Absolutely appreciate.
I'd have forgotten the game even existed. So
yeah,
perfect. Let's see. Lisa, what's your take on the first part?
So the transition from Justine to Claire, I thought was very interesting. So first of all, I do want to comment on Michael, the husband. To me, he was extremely two-dimensional. You didn't get to know him at all, except in the limo scene. I saw a possible relationship. Like, everything's fine here. What's going on? And then as the night goes on, did it seem like he got more and more and more simple as a character? And then in the end, like, he's like, you're so beautiful. I never would have, so he's very fixated on her beauty. Obviously she can function as a normal human being. She's a very high powered job, and she was in the middle of courting and got asked to be married by this guy, and who really wants her because she's beautiful, and he really wants to have sex with her. But did it seem like he was a little bit on the spectrum to you? I don't know. It seemed like it's just a little bit like not quite all there to me. And then it was like, okay, I guess it's not going to work out. And I was like, what? Yeah. But obviously we have Melancholia coming too, so there's that as well. And I think in the beginning when Claire says, you did want this, right? And I feel like she's asking, you wanted this, even though it's the end of the world, right? It's like, it was that important to you that you wanted this. Like, yes, of course I do. So obviously flipping over to Claire, I felt like between parts 1 and parts 2, Justine and Claire flipped. I really felt like, obviously Claire has a family, a son. She's dealing with things just a little bit more broad than Justine is, but I kind of felt like she took on a little bit of her, for lack of a better term, melancholia, and it was kind of flipped a little bit. It seemed like Justine was a little bit more on the mark after she got in the car to come to them. Like, it took her like, no, I can't get in the car. Yes, you can get in the car. I can't get in the car. Yes, you can get in the car. that kind of a thing. So I did like that. And then we kind of get into this kind of, then have you seen, isn't it the movie with called The Others, which is the ghost story, which you never really understand why, like, the husband won't stick around, and it's very kind of moody, and you walking from one situation into the other, and then you discover at the end what the twist is, right? It felt a little bit like that, this second part. Like, it was moving through a dreamlike state, and they didn't really know what was happening. He's like, it's gonna pass right by, and I'm like, pass right by and do what? A huge planet is going to run past Earth and not do anything to it? No, that won't happen, right? We see the dream visions, but it's more than that. It's going to be lightning, earthquakes, to tsunamis, and stuff like that. So I thought that was very interesting, how we're moving in and out of this weird dreamlike state towards the end of the world. And Justine seems to be okay, and Claire is obviously, she's attached to her son. Who wouldn't be, Yeah.
So, hey, would you mind sharing your metaphor, because I wanted to add to it?
Which metaphor?
Jackie had a theory about
sorry.
the planet.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think just as I was watching it, seeing how much like Justine's depression like destroyed so much around her.
Mm.
I don't know if it was too heavy-handed of me, but I thought the planet itself was like a metaphor for how depression can like ruin people's whole world. You know, like the planet destroying the world is kind of like a metaphor of how some one person's depression can totally like
Mm-hmm.
destroy a whole like little ecosystem within a community. And yeah, other stuff that I noticed I wanted to mention was just like how, and it kind of connects to this, I loved when Justine quit her job, going into like honest, like in a weird way, I think depression causes honesty, and you're like stripping away these masks of like societal norms, and you're like, I'm not going to pretend to value work anymore. Like, I'm not, like, you know, and like, I love when she calls him a despicable, power hungry little man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, is the destruction a bad thing if it's like, when are we destroying? And I liked when she said the earth is evil, like life on earth is evil. So it's like, okay, you can all be mad at her for like destroying everything, but like, what is she actually like destroying? Or is she just like getting people to notice what is already there? Which I like.
Yeah, and babe, I think what I wanted to add to your metaphor of like, you know, melancholia is like depression itself, and it's like, of course, all these men are saying it'll pass. Your depression will pass. It's the phase. You're fine. You know, and there's all these little things like, oh, here's how you can tell we're getting better. See, it's getting better, and it's like it's not getting better. And you know,
and she wasn't participating in any of that.
No,
right.
No.
He just says I know things, which I like that. I think like some people with like mental illness have this intuitive, like they know things, you know. I don't need to use your little like thing to tell that the like we're gonna die. But then I also really liked Claire, and I weirdly like related to all the characters. Like I really related to Claire's frustration with Justine of just like act fucking normal, like. You know what I mean? Like you could tell she tried so hard to be empathetic and take care of her, but at the end of the day, it's like, why is this my job? Just like be attached to reality so I can like be a person. And I thought like Charlotte Ginsburg did a really good job like capturing that like balance of like I'm frustrated, but like I have to be empathetic too, and like it's not her fault, but is it? And like I thought that was really well done, that like sibling dynamic.
Yeah. Totally. How about
Sarah? And it was
Sarah?
really touching, the scenes where like Claire was taking care of her, and like, you know, there's moments where it's like, oh, she's not just sad, she is so clinically depressed, she genuinely believes she can't move her feet. Right. And it's like, and like she's like sobbing with just like, and like, you know, I mean, my family has struggled with depression, and I've seen my mom at like close to that, you know, so I felt like that was really well portrayed. It felt really authentic and didn't feel like overly extreme. And I just want to touch really briefly on her sort of ad agency thing. So she was like a Don Draper, right? She was a genius, and everyone wanted a piece of her. And it's like, oh, Don Draper is really depressed too, but that's what like male depression looks like versus female depression. In like, you know, if this movie is making a statement about what it's like to be a brilliant woman and nobody really like quite knows what you need or how to make you what makes you tick or whatever. And I love that like you keep seeing the picture he's trying to get the tagline for, and it's a bunch of really naked skinny women, almost corpse like, and it's like, and she's like, the tagline is nothing, you dumb fuck, and like the guy's like, nothing's not a bad tagline, is that it? Are you like, this is the tagline, it says nothing. They're just so desperate for it. And Jackie and I were talking, it's like, it's weird that she's like this brilliant ad executive and also this depressed and this detached, but you almost get the sense of like, oh, she's like an artist. She's like actually an artist, and she's a tortured artist.
Mm.
And yes, Claire is very underrated. I agree as well.
Yeah, big Claire fan. What was your take, Sarah?
I really liked Claire's part. Like, to me, this was when the movie really picked up. You know how Jeremy, you said that you felt like the music was a little much. I felt like Justine's part could have been shortened a bit. Just because toward the end of it, maybe the last 10 minutes, I was like, okay. Like, I wanted to leave the wedding. I was done with this wedding. I was like, I'm ready to get in my car and go home. Which partially is the movie doing a really good job of portraying like this really uncomfortable event. But all of Claire's part, I was just transfixed. Like, I feel like it's rare. Like, Kyle knows I lose my attention quickly with movies. I get up, I check my phone, I play games, I move around. I was like transfixed. The whole second half of the movie, I just thought it was really well done. I noticed the camera was a little steadier with Claire than it was with Justine, which I thought was cool, because it's like, oh, the camera is kind of like reflecting that Claire is a little bit more steady. And then I think you guys covered pretty much everything else I want to say. I was going to make that point about Kiefer, but you made, Jeremy, that he's trying to talk her out of the depression, because I liked Jackie's metaphor, and that was my thought too. Like, Kiefer's like every doctor, like, just get up, take a shower, you'll feel better, you know. So I liked that. And you know what I found was really refreshing about this whole movie? It's one of the only movies I've seen about a disaster where they didn't feel any need to have the radio going, tonight's Melancholia will pass by.
I noticed that too.
Have them watching the news. It just made it so beautiful, because it was just like, this is happening, but we're just watching these 3 people or 4 people live this, and there's no news, there's no headlines, there's no like
panic.
I loved that. Yes, I loved that. I thought it was so cool.
And
that's it.
I think my favorite part about this as a disaster movie, if you were to compare them, right, is that it's slow. Like, you know, and the movie itself is slow, but then also the shots of, like, you know, Melancholia hitting Earth, and it's not like, you know, Deep Impact or Armageddon or whatever. Floating. Yeah. Ben Affleck's like, you know, outrunning the wave of the you know, it's like, no, it's just, but that's what depression is, right? It's huge and slow. And that's also like, it's climate change, where like we see it get worse every year, but it's slow enough that we don't completely panic. And, you know, and I think that metaphor just carries all the way through, right? It's the dissolution of a relationship. It's, you know, society itself. It's your family ties, where it's like the most disastrous things are slow and feel unavoidable. And I don't know, it was haunting for that. Like this scene where they walk out and there's Melancholia and like the moon. It felt like I gasped, because like I think Sarah said, I felt like I was actually there. Yeah, it was really beautiful in a very authentically sad feeling way, I think, for that reason.
Yeah. I thought it was when it first jumps to the second half, like, it was unclear to me until a few minutes in if this was happening before or after the wedding, which I thought was interesting, because it was kind of like she was depressed before, she's going to be depressed again. But I couldn't, it was kind of like, oh, is this how she's visiting before, and how they get, but yeah, which is.
And it was 678. That's the moment, you know, because you don't really know until she says 678, right. Which I loved that. I was like, that was such a cool way to find out where we were in the timeline.
Yeah. And I thought, like, another Vertigo reference too was the fact that the sister was, when she was in sort of a trance, walking out to like be nude under the moon, the sister was just watching from a distance, at like watching someone that seemed to be in a trance going about her business, which is Vertigo, like in the graveyard watching the what's her face, Carlotta Valdez possessed woman, which was interesting too. And then I thought the line
that's like the whole first half of Vertigo is involving her.
Yeah. And then I wrote down Jackie's too, Life on Earth is evil, but also it's hard to breathe when Melancholia is near was interesting. Like when they're like, oh, you can't, your breath shortens when the planets are coming together because the atmospheres are being shared, but also just a comment on Melancholia itself, like sort of the disease. Cool. So final couple scenes here. As Melancholia initially passes near Earth without incident, Claire's hope is briefly restored. However, the planet's gravitational path shifts, sending it back towards Earth for an inevitable collision. John, unable to cope with the truth, commits suicide. Claire hides his death and tries to flee with her son Leo, but their car fails to start, trapping them at the estate. Any thoughts, maybe Sarah, on that part when she kind of shifts her hope goes away, fades away?
Well, first of all, that scene where he's just gone from his chair and she like falls asleep and then she wakes up and he's just gone, and then she looks and the planet's bigger. I was like, oh my God, that was so like, I was scared. That sounds so dumb, but I was like, I felt her dread and fear and like, oh my gosh, when he like looks back, I thought that was like one of the most haunting scenes of the movie is when he looks back in the telescope and he like is confused and looks at his paper and then looks back again and then he just disappears. I was like, oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. I thought it was like kind of strange. I thought at first he was giving like the tranquilizer to the horses and that's why they calmed down. So I was a little confused, and then I was like, oh, I guess he killed himself, which I guess kind of made sense because it seems like sometimes the most confident, like I like that it was, the movie was kind of saying it's like the most confident people are the first ones to like break.
Yeah.
And I liked the driving around frantically because I'm just like, where are you going, Claire? Like, so where did she think she was going to go? But I did not like, I was kind of mad. I don't remember if this was this part where she said, let's sit on the patio and have a glass of wine. And then like Justine's like, oh, is that how you want? Like, I thought she was really mean to Claire. I was like, I thought having a glass of wine on the patio sounded like a good way to like end the night, to end the earth.
Right.
So I was kind of upset with Justine. And then she says, sometimes I hate you. I was like, yeah, me too. I loved this whole portion of the movie. I was like so in.
Yeah, I think when she holds up the little tool and it's so much closer, like I felt it in my chest.
Yeah.
Like my heart dropped, you know, and that's the sign of a good movie if you have the reaction that the character is having. And you know, I do feel like Justine kind of makes up for it by being the only one who's not losing her shit at time of impact, you know. And so that is kind of her. It's kind of her superpower is like, yeah, she's depressed, but she's always this sad. So right now it's kind of a baseline thing for her.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Don't Look Up owes a lot to this movie. And I have to feel like that line about like, you know, like what's so wrong with wanting to die with a glass of wine in your hand? Like, spoilers for Don't Look Up, but that's the final shot of the movie. They literally just have a drink as the thing hits the earth. And so yeah, I liked how it ended. It just, I don't know. I was thinking there was gonna be like a part 3. I don't know. I don't know what it would be. Like,
yeah.
It's all about Kiefer. It's all Kiefer. It's Kiefer's spinoff. Yeah.
I'd watch it.
Yeah.
24. Yeah.
I was going to say it's 24. It's him like lassoing the planet and pulling it back into orbit.
Get the rock in there. We're done. What was your take, Jackie, on this part?
First, I just really want to say I love what Sarah said about how the most confident people are the first to break. That just really speaks to me because I always like tell my students like, the loudest person in the room, the most confident person in the room, they're not the ones you want to listen to. Like, and I just like that. But yeah, and I also agree that like I liked how realistic they showed Justine with like, I think sometimes we don't realize depressed people can be super mean. Like, because again, it's this. Let's shed away all the niceties.
Really
But okay,
Mhm.
but then that's like you're being really mean. Like, but I did like when she said, "If you think I'm afraid of a planet, you're stupid."
Mm.
Um, like I think also a part of depression is like depressed people can be very resilient and strong, and like, oh, you're not affected by some things other people are affected by. And I love how like all of this was happening at this like sprawling estate with like rooms they didn't even use.
And the whole
like,
golf course.
Yeah.
the whole golf course. Like, and I just loved that, like to see how something like this, like depression or even like the end of the world, like you can have all this, but it still like won't destroy you. Like it doesn't matter how much you have. But yeah, I think that's it.
Cool.
I loved all the little moments that made these characters feel so real. And like when I think it was Kiefer Sutherland's character is mad at them for taking the bath, and it's like, do you know how many golf course holes we have here? And it was totally off topic, but it was just like that's just how little they appreciate, even though they don't care about golf. They should be appreciative of the amount of golf that they could be having if they wanted it. I love, Justine is just like, I can't get up, I can't move. Meatloaf? Oh, meatloaf. And she's eating the meatloaf, and it's like she kind of comes back to life a little bit.
You said it tastes like
Tastes like ashes.
Yeah.
But she was excited to have it.
It was. She smelled it, right? Didn't you smell
Yeah.
it?
And I think my favorite little moment that just felt so I feel like there's a line that nobody talks about. It was when she first sees like Melancholia, and she's like, what star is that?
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm amazed you can see that. And I was like, why is it amazing a woman saw a thing? Like why? What do you mean you can't? Am I being dumb?
What is your profession anyway?
That was condescending, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Absolutely. He was all like, oh, you nice little girl.
Yeah. Exactly. What was your take, Lisa, on this part?
Well, I think it's very interesting. I'm like I wish I would have been able to watch it again. Somehow the second part of the movie, I might have been like pulled into it a lot because I didn't see a lot of the things that you guys saw, and I just must have been kind of overwhelmed by Claire's response with her son.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, I thought it was very interesting. So you were talking about the star. Justine saw the star. She was fixated on Melancholia that whole evening. She went out several times to go look at it. And she's like, I'm not afraid of a planet, and stuff like that. So I thought that was very interesting. And with Jonathan, the brother-in-law, so he's like, everything's gonna be fine. He's trying to glow all this, yet at the same time he's prepping, and bringing all that stuff in. And then I don't know what my deal was. I didn't get that he killed himself. I just get that he was lying over there, and I'm like, oh, something must have just happened to him. What? I was very kind of like going through the last part. I'm like, it's gonna end, right? And then what's gonna happen? So it's kind of weird that I reacted a little bit differently than all of you guys. And then I was like, here it comes. Wow. But I think that it's very, very interesting through the whole movie. She sees Melancholia, and this movie is really about, I feel, how we face the end of the world, whatever the world is for us at that time.
Mm.
How do you face it? How do you confront it? And then how do you confront it with the people that you love the most? Yeah. And I think I kind of glowed a little bit over the depression stuff, a little bit too much in the end, and I didn't see it. I just saw it as they were a little bit more normal. They were a bit more, except that she couldn't get into the cab to come over, and I was like, yeah, that sounds normal, So, I think she knew. Claire knew all along the world was coming to an end, and she puts that teepee up at the end with I think with the help of the nephew, right? And then they put themselves under it, and then she confronts it, and so that's kind of how I was pulling at the end. I didn't see as many details as you guys did at the end. I think this must have been like a spell came over me. Lars von Trier's spell, so
yeah, the only thing I was going to note that I put for this section was like, I love the whole device that the kid and Kiefer made to measure the distance, because it was kind of like showing that you can't see the danger directly. You can only see it indirectly, right?
That's
Which
right.
is kind of similar to the effects of, melancholy. Like you can't necessarily see, that they're sad. It's more you're measured on the effects they have really than anything else.
Right.
Can I just add though, like, Lisa's like, I think like a spell came over me or something, but like I also, as interesting as this movie is, I was not really hooked by a lot of it. My attention kind of drifted at points. Jackie went on her phone. Like, no, Sarah strongly disagrees.
No, I was so compelled.
The whole time.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I said, just the end of the wedding, I was like, okay, I'm ready to leave this wedding. This wedding has gone on long enough. But from Justine till the end, I was in.
Okay.
Like I was spellbound.
Interesting. I feel, but then it's like also, is that it being artistic and then it feels like it's dragging because that's what sadness feels like, and it's not quick and it's not,
It didn't feel draggy to me. I thought it was perfect, but
okay.
I don't know.
Okay, final part before we get to our best and worst. So, facing the apocalypse, Claire becomes increasingly panicked, while Justine accepts her fate with calm resignation. Justine comforts Leo by suggesting they build a magic cave from branches to shelter them from the impending disaster. The sisters and Leo gather under this makeshift shelter, holding hands as the end approaches. The film concludes with the collision of Melancholia and Earth, engulfing them in flames as both planets shatter. Justine and Leo appear at peace, while Claire succumbs to despair, symbolizing contrasting responses to death and depression. What was your take? Maybe Jackie will start on this final part.
Well, first, I just really love Justine's connection with Leo. How, like, yes, she's like selfish because of her depression, but she's there with him making this, like, that thing that they had been talking about for so long. And I think, like, that connects to maybe, like, when you're depressed, you do have. There's this connection with children, I think depressed people have because of how much they want to go back to like that childlike wonder and like connecting to and appreciating innocence and wanting children to maintain their happiness and like not grow up and like face reality in a way because of what happened to them. So I just really liked that like connection in the end with Leo.
Yeah.
Right. And even just a literal plot device, or not, like plot device is the wrong term, but like, I think that it's really sweet the way that she convinces Leo, like, yeah, everyone's gonna die, but they don't know about magic caves. And so like, I feel like he believed in the magic or whatever, or even if he did and he pretended to. And like, she's the only one who knew. That's all you can do. You can't stop the end of the world. It doesn't matter how many gas cans Kiefer Sutherland hauls out of that van. Like, at the end, all you can do is be comfortable with your loved ones, I guess. I don't know. It was really haunting. And it's the kind of movie I think. It's weird that I didn't remember any of this because I don't know how I forgot it. It feels like it's going to be seared into my brain this time. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But
how about Sarah?
I just really love what Jackie said about their relationship. And like, I was thinking about how Jackie was also saying, like, there's this thing about depression where it's like stripping away all the facade and like getting to the truth. And I thought it was interesting that she still does maintain, though, a facade for
the boy,
Leo. Yeah. So which I thought like, oh, so that shows she can do it. It's just they don't have the patience with adults to placate their fantasies. They're like, you're an adult. Face the truth. What, you want to have a little wine on the patio? Is that how you want it to end? But I will say, I kept thinking when they were kneeling in the teepee, I was like, that doesn't look comfortable. I feel like wine on the patio would have been better. But
Yeah.
I did love the image. I did love the image of the planet coming up while they were in the teepee. I thought it was a really cool image. But I was like, man, kneeling on that cold, hard ground, is that really how you wanted to go? I mean, I like Claire's idea better. So that was my take on it.
Nice. How about Lisa?
It was obvious that Claire wanted some comfort. She wasn't getting it from her husband for sure. She can't rely on her son for it, and she tried to get it from her sister, who obviously has issues and is not really there for her, at least in the beginning. But then at the end, it does seem like, you know, her, like Claire and the kids seem to be calm at the end, and she's not quite that way, but I kind of feel like she found something, at least in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, sure, this movie is about depression and how one person's depression can affect everybody in the scope, but it is also about the end of the world, which sometimes these days you think about a little bit more. So,
Yeah.
you know, how are you going to face that? Are you going to be able to confront it, or are you going to, you know, try to deflect it or be distracted, or be like, I know things. Right. And hold on to those things. Right.
And like for the longest time, the collapse of our society felt slow and inevitable, but it's really fast these days. Like it's
less than 100 days.
Question though, because I'm kind of thinking about the movie as a whole now, and Justine is strangely prescient, and she knows things, and she knows the number of jelly beans, even though nobody told her.
Right.
Is she this depressed because she had the prophetic dreams and she's seen the world ending and she deep down knows it's coming? And that's why she's so much more depressed than everybody else, is because they haven't had these dreams that make it like...
Jeremy, has she created the end of the world with her state? What? You didn't get that underneath it all? I don't know.
In a way, isn't Melancholia crashing into us all? Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was what it was supposed to be. Like, she already had kind of made her peace with it because she had foreseen it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was the impression I got.
Yeah. Did you get, my question too is like, why, obviously it's the film is split structure wise between the two sisters. Did anyone have a thought as to why it was in this order? Like why did we see her seemingly break down and then be more in control in the second half, or any like hot takes on that?
Well, I mean, I think it plays into the statement that this movie is making about depression, right? Like, we start by seeing, I mean, it's like, it's Justine, but like, we're seeing everyone's like reaction to it. And then I forget if one of you said it or it was like on the internet, but like the idea that someone who is going through this depression handles things a little bit better. And so it's like, you kind of see her value now. Right.
So I think too, like going back to what Jackie was saying about routine and ritual and tradition, I think it's like almost to contrast like these things that we think are so important with like how futile it is when contrasted with the end of the world. So I thought we needed to see all these people running after all these things that are ultimately not important, like the tagline and the, you know, the wedding, and the toast, and you're 2 hours late, and I'm like, what does it matter? What does it matter if the world's gonna end? You know. So I thought it was
the world's ending. Though,
really
so
cool.
Yeah,
but I just loved that it was like all these people worried about these little tiny little things. Do you know what I mean? And fighting over them, and So I loved that.
But also funny that they wasted everyone's time, and it was like the last week of the planet Earth, and they wasted 2 hours waiting for them. It's like the ultimate like rich person like not respecting your resources, and like
there was also a line from Claire. I don't remember if it was Claire or Justine, where either Claire says, "I want to do this the right way," or Justine says, "Oh, you want to do it the right way." It was in the patio discussion about having the wine on the patio, which apparently that scene really affected me because I keep talking about it. But like, I just thought, oh, that's interesting that it's like, I thought really showed up the difference between the siblings, that Claire wants to do things the right way. She wants to like, you know, have this more, I don't know, sanctioned life, I guess. Like, oh, everybody approves of me, and like, I've got the good rich husband, and you know, I'm doing things, and I'm helping my sister, and yeah.
Cool. Well, I thought we can end it up here with our best and worst before we talk about critical responses to this movie. But what is maybe we'll start with Lisa. What is your best and worst part of the movie, you thought?
Well, I definitely think the worst part of the movie for me was I have two fathers, and so I have an attachment to them, a stepfather and a biological father, and an attachment to them. And the fact that she could not connect with her father really upset me. Really, like she really wanted to talk to him, and he obviously he's got stuff going on too, but he can't have her in his space, so because he's got stuff, whatever it is, going on too, and he was married to her mother, and stuff like that. So that to me, that made me ache quite a bit. The best part, I just think that planet coming nearer and nearer and nearer, and Claire seeing it and knowing it and wanting to watch it all the time, and then the tool, I don't know, I'll say it again, it really kind of cast a spell on me a little bit. So that was really the visual, the camera work, the music, and the non-music parts too. So I like the dream state images as well. She talks about walking through the forest and having the roots come up and try to grab her ankles and stuff like that. So
right, that's right.
I liked all of that for sure.
Yes. How about Jackie?
So okay, this is a side note, but this got me like on a tangent of researching if like depressed people were viewed as prophets. And like they totally were in ancient Greece. Socrates says that certain kinds of madness can actually be gifts from the gods, allowing people to see deeper truths. And he said all men of genius are melancholic. But yeah, I think she might have known. Like I've been thinking about this because like she maybe like knew it was like prophetic.
Yeah.
But so what's interesting is like my favorite parts of this were actually the human aspects of it, like the wedding. That's it. Like I love the wedding, and I appreciate like Lisa sharing that about her dad's, but I also am kind of I'm having a conflict with my dad, and I really, really related to her like kind of estrangement from her parents, and found that so like compelling and just like realistic. Honestly, like I don't think there is a worst part of this movie for me. Like I can't really name some part of it I did not find compelling.
But you're okay, but I mean I'm not saying you're wrong, but so when you went on your phone, that wasn't because you were kind of no. I'm genuinely asking if she can go on her phone and still fully connect to a movie. Because to me, anytime someone takes out their phone, it's a sign of, whoops, like you lost them.
Well, I think like lately I will like research things. Like I'll see something and then look up the symbolism of something that I'm seeing. Okay. So like that, I'm giving myself too much credit though. I totally was like on other things.
Yeah, you're on Instagram. Come on.
But it, and also I've seen this I think a couple times before.
Yeah.
So
okay.
that
okay.
kind of play with, but yeah, sure. Like there were times. I don't know.
I'm only asking because me calling the movie a little boring seemed really challenged, and no one. So can I go next? Did you do your best? What was your best, babe? Or your best was
My best was I literally like I can't stop thinking about the mom and her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I actually like liked the mom.
Yeah.
I like thinking about the whole family dynamic and how like realistic it was. Like it was weirdly comforting to me to know that there are families like that too.
Yeah. And if I can add, if I can go next, the best, I think I was gonna say the mom babe, because she felt so real, and
I don't like marriage.
I've never liked marriage, like, but like Jackie likes her and I think the audience likes her because it's like she's the only one who's really saying what they feel.
Yeah.
Everyone else is
in the middle of the wedding ceremony or whatever, in the middle of it.
And
nobody wants to be that rude, but she didn't care.
Yeah, and so then there's a shot, my favorite shot in the whole movie. I rewound it to show Jackie. It was like the next morning, and the mom, who also played her part in ruining everyone's night, she just stretches by the window and sees the sunrise and does this happy little clap for the sunrise. And it was like, it was so Jackie coded. Like that's her love of nature and just stretching, and like it was 8 seconds of the movie that absolutely did not need to be there, but it felt so
Lars.
And the worst part, I mean, I know Sarah disagrees, but the overuse of the theme, because by the end, when I rolled my eyes, Sarah, I literally rolled my eyes as the planet was ending, and I was just like, that was not. I think they should have used different pieces of the same theme, but it was the same 8 notes.
It was an interesting choice for sure.
Okay.
Sarah's all angry about it. How about Sarah? Oh, while we cut through.
No, it wasn't the same excerpt. I mean, it was that type of music. And the reason it kind of reminded me of Vertigo is it's the way that it's designed is to sound like an ongoing piece. That's different music. It's not the same excerpt the whole time. It's just not.
Are you sure? I swear it's the same. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's the way it's like written. I mean, it's the same piece, Tristan and Isolde, but it's not, or I don't know how you pronounce that, Isolde. I did not have a worst part. However, because I have to mention a worst part, I'm going to say, why were they cooking on this weird outdoor stove? And who makes pancakes on a weird outdoor stove at home? That was weird. So that's my only dislike. I loved seeing Melancholia during the day in different parts. I thought that was really cool. And that scene where he disappears from his chair, I thought was really intense, and I really loved that.
Yeah.
I love that she fell asleep and he was just gone. I thought that made it even more haunting.
I thought I didn't really have a worst either, but like I definitely felt abrupt after we had like kind of connected a little bit to the groom in the beginning, and he's gone. But I guess it's kind of like he wasn't as important, but I kind of felt like he was a little underdeveloped. And then best, I loved like whether it was Kiefer or whoever, mostly him, trying to stop people that are trying to stop others from worrying while they're also secretly worrying. I thought that was a great representation of all the stuff and then he just kills himself accordingly. Cool. So I have, before we go to our final scores, a couple of quotes and the scandal around this movie, which I was not aware of. So the premiere of this took place at the 2011 Cannes Film Festival, where it was screened in competition on the 18th of May. The press conference after the screening gained considerable publicity because Von Trier has never been very PC, and his Cannes press conference always play like a dark stand-up routine. But at the Melancholia press conference, he took it to another level, tossing a grenade in any sense of public decorum. Von Trier first joked about working on a hardcore pornographic film that would star Dunst and Gainsbourg. When asked about the relation between the influences of German Romanticism and Melancholia and Von Trier's own German heritage, the director brought up that he had been raised believing his biological father was a Jew, only to learn as an adult his actual father was a German. He then made jokes about Jews and Nazis, saying he understood Adolf Hitler and admired the work of architect Albert Speer, jokingly announced that he was a Nazi. The Cannes Film Festival issued an official apology for the remarks the same day and clarified that Von Trier is not a Nazi or an anti-Semite, then declared that he was persona non grata the following day, not allowed to go within 100 feet of the festival palace, but he did remain in Cannes and continued to give promotional interviews. So that was cool. Wow. That was a moment. On the review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, 80% of 209 critics reviews are positive. The average rating is 7.5 out of 10. The critical consensus states Melancholia's dramatic tricks are more obvious than they should be, but this is otherwise a showcase for Kirsten Dunst's acting and for Lars von Trier's profound, visceral vision of depression and destruction. Stephen Loeb of the Southampton Patch writes, the film has brought out the best of Von Trier as well as his star. Dunst is so good in this film, playing a character unlike any she's ever attempted, that she won the award for Best Actress at the Cannes Film Festival. Even if the film itself were not the incredible work of art that it is, Dunn's performance alone would be incentive enough to recommend it. This is interesting, I thought, and said in 2020, amid COVID, an Atlantic culture writer found the perspective of a catastrophe-minded person thrust into a state of actual catastrophe finds perhaps no better creative expression than this film. BBC Culture stated that arguably no film has been more profoundly compassionate in its depiction of a mental crisis, and the title questions if it is the greatest film about depression ever made. Roger Ebert, violent death is often a shabby business in the movies. It happens in depressing bedrooms, bloody bathtubs, shattered cars, bleak alleys. Its victims are cast down, empty of life. Here's a character who says, I see it coming. I will face it. I will not turn away. I will observe it as long as my eyes and mind still function. Is it fair of me to speculate that Von Trier himself regards death in this way? He tends to be grandiose, but if one cannot be grandiose in imagining one's own death, then when is grandiosity justified? And then finally, the BBC says it's a film that, like many of Von Trier's works, offers a provocation. The depressed outlook it dares to suggest is the correct one. The world is ending. Resistance is futile. All you can do is accept this state of catastrophe and relax into the beauty of this final spectacle. So finally, if we'll move on to the Jeremy, you do a little summary of the Strauss scale again. We'll give our ratings.
Absolutely. Strauss scale, it's out of 10. If you don't regret watching it, it starts at a 5 and follow your heart from there. For me, and it's almost like I feel like this movie isn't really for me. I know it's well made, and also movies like this feel weird to give a score out of 10 because so much of it is art. But I'm going 7. I'm going 7, which to be clear means I like it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I will ever revisit it now that I've seen it twice. I hope I remember it this time. Especially since you guys said so many cool things about it. But as much as in certain scenes it is truly moving and truly heart-wrenching, I feel like in a lot of other scenes it's kind of sleepy, and that works against the building tension of the films. I go 7.
How about Lisa?
So on a scale of 10, I don't know what movie is a 10. We might have to figure that out.
I know.
I would definitely say that it's at least an 8 or a 9 for me. It's beautiful, engrossing, and a great metaphor for death and for depression as well.
Nice. How about Sarah?
This one's a 10 for me.
Wow.
10 out of 10.
Wow.
No notes. It's beautiful. I really loved it. I wasn't sure. I mean, I knew it got critical acclaim, and so it's like that kind of made me want to watch it. But as Kyle knows, I'm not a fan usually of like depressing movies. I usually avoid them. So the fact that it was called Melancholia and I actually wanted to watch it is shocking. But yeah, for me, I thought it was beautiful. I wouldn't change a thing.
That's bold. I like it. How about Jackie?
Yeah, it was a 10 for me.
Didn't I give another movie a 10 we watched together? We talked about.
Last one, Lost Highway.
Lost Highway?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Lost Highway. You gave it 10.
Yeah, I would give this a 10 too.
Really?
I mean, the most realistic. There was nothing unrealistic about how it portrayed depression. And that's so. Just that in itself, deserves a 10. But then on top of that, exploring the end of the world in a way I've never seen any other movie do, in a beautiful way, and then the human aspects of it, the relationships. I think,
Nice.
10.
Sarah can't give it a 10 because the pancakes were cooked outside, and that makes no sense. 9 is the ceiling for Sarah.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I think I would give it a 9. I really much like it a lot, but I don't know. For some reason, I have to reserve 10s for I don't even know what, but I would give this a 9 for sure. But yeah, I thought it was fantastic overall. Jurassic Park. Sarah will not agree with that.
I don't know how we can disagree with it.
It's science at that point.
Yeah, she's got controversial opinions about a lot of movies. So, anyway, cool. So until I guess we've finished this up, but until we meet again, and we'll figure out what we're up to next. Where can we find everyone? We'll start with Jackie. Where else can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on Instagram at Jacqueline Francis. I write on there.
Nice.
And if you vibed with this movie, you should absolutely check out her poetry because it is similarly awesome and carries some similar themes between like nature appreciation and like just kind of gloom's the wrong word, babe, but just sort of ennui sometimes. I think you capture that well. The opposite of that is my podcast, the Old Switch A-Roo, about old Nintendo games, oldswitcharoo.com.
We need a little levity.
yeah. If you like old video games, check it out. Come on our Discord and do an episode with me. We'd love to talk to you about what old game you loved as a kid, and it'll be fun.
Nice. How about Lisa?
Well, I don't really do social media that much. Kind of weird because I'm in marketing. But if you want to chat with me, you can find me on Stream Team, which is great. You know, I have a Facebook thing for friends and family, and then I watch TikTok. That's all. So that's about it for me.
Kurt, you can find him at the pub.
No, don't repeat that.
I won't read it.
Don't say that on mic, Kyle.
You can find Kurt around. He's around.
Yeah.
How about Sarah?
I'm on Blue Sky at Hagfish, and I don't produce anything.
Except smiles.
That's right. I do a newsletter every Sunday, kylesjunkdrawer.com if you want to sign up for it. And then, of course, you can find us here on Stream Team. This might be, not to spoil it, but we might be able to do next month's outside of the network. So we can try it with people can just watch it. I'll keep you posted, which is your dream. So anyway, more to come on that. Thank you everyone for coming. Also, by the way, I love that Jeremy, when we talk about the movie that Jackie gave a 10, you're just like, oh, it was the last one, Lost Highway, conveniently erasing Pink Flamingos from the. Cool. I see how it is.
It was last time.
Was it last time? I thought Lost Highway came after that nightmare. Okay. That was my real world actually ending. That was my Melancholia. Pink Flamingos.
Exactly. Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming too, Lisa. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
This was fun, guys. Thank you.